a very important story that I will be writing about, which is actually what I wanted to write the other day, that's gotten almost no traction, a crazy small amount of traction. Well, one of those is the fact that the administration is trying to determine who gets to vote. But also, there is a move afoot, and J.D. Vance is part of it, to change the way Americans think about citizenship. And this is a really big deal. So if you have been following social media, the Department of Homeland Security released an image a number of days ago of a young white couple in what appeared to be a covered wagon playing with a baby. And they had a caption about protecting the homeland. And the story gets very deep and very convoluted very quickly because they never consulted with the artist who made that image, who actually had a very different, quite innocuous title for it, and which changed the entire meaning of the picture. But that picture with the caption, which had a capital HH in it, which is a dog whistle for Heil Hitler, and there were a number of dog whistles in this picture, but and it was people like historians who understand the symbolism of the American West and the symbolism of authoritarianism, our hackles went up in a hurry. But a lot of people did not make the connection to a speech that Vice President J.D. Vance gave at the Claremont Institute 2 weekends ago, in which, the whole thing starts out talking about how Democrats are our enemies and all that usual language. But then it talks about citizenship. And this is a really important concept. So you remember how Joe Biden was always talking about how America's an idea, democracy is an idea. And that is the way Americans have imagined American democracy really all along. And quite dramatically, in his last public speech before he left office, Ronald Reagan did the same thing. I mean, quite literally, in a lot of ways, Biden was echoing Ronald Reagan, who was a Republican. So this is really the way Americans have thought about citizenship, that if you believe in the ideals of the Declaration of Independence, it doesn't matter where you come from, you are an American. You can be an American by accepting those ideals. The MAGA Republicans don't believe that. Now, they are arguing for a kind of citizenship that's based in the idea of what they have called, or what others have called, blood and soil. And that's a Nazi slogan. It actually starts in the 1930s. And what it means is that people who are associated with a certain nationality, long-term nationality, and a certain kind of land are citizens in a way that people from away, or people, that's the main expression, I'm sorry, immigrants, never can be. And that idea is entirely antithetical to what the United States has ever been. So, and Vance pushed this very hard, as I say in this speech, and kept talking about how, people who were here during the Civil War are more Americans than people who just got here yesterday. That is 100% not what America has ever stood for. The whole idea has been that you can come to the United States and you can be an American, and the person who came and became a citizen yesterday is just as much an American as somebody whose family has been here since the days of the Pilgrims, which is one of the things that has made America a really cool place to be, is because we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And that's been our great strength. In fact, that's what Reagan said in that last speech, is this is America's great strength. And when we stop doing that, we'll desiccate, and become old and cease to be America any longer. That idea is what got picked up in that image that Homeland Security circulated. The idea that if you are here for a really long time, you're white, you're heteronormative, you've been on the soil. And by the way, it has nothing to do, by the way, with Indigenous Americans. This is who've been on the soil way longer than the people represented by that wagon. The idea is that those people are more American than people of color, essentially, and Black Americans, and certainly Indigenous Americans. And that story is, I haven't seen it anywhere. I'm not saying it isn't there, but that's a really important story, because you can see people kind of going, oh yeah, Pilgrims, they're cool. Or, oh, a cowboy, that's cool. Yeah, that's an American. But The shift of American citizenship from the ideals of the Declaration of Independence to the concept of who you're descended from and how long you've been in the land is a very profound change for America. And that's, I think, what the uh, radical right, some of whom are fascists in the administration, are trying to do. And I'd like people to be aware of that because I am so dead set against that. To me, that's a complete rejection of everything America has ever stood for. That you can only be an American if your family's been here for a really long time. Just to me destroys everything that this country stands